Hey, everybody. Yes, welcome back to the Paid Search Podcast. My name is Jason Rothman. As always, I'm joined by the great Chris Schaefer. Chris, how's it going today?
Jason, I'm doing well. How are you, sir?
Excellent. I'm doing absolutely excellent. We're both
Wow.
doing great. We're both wearing blue,
Mm-hmm.
both have collars on.
Okay.
Very
And
special
now,
day.
now let's go a little lower. Do you have pants and shoes on?
I do. What are you
Ah,
wearing?
shorts and socks.
I'm wearing shorts and I'm barefoot, but I
There
just
we go.
wanted to see. It's hot, Chris. It's the summer, you know?
Just he's gonna lie and then say, "Okay, I can be truthful." Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
you can count on me to be truthful. I'm just, hey, but professional from here up. That's what counts.
I mean, what are we? Dullards, Chris? Do we have anything going on or
Um.
just Google Ads? Is that all we have going on?
Well.
And the weather.
Yeah. I mean, the weather's great. Nothing much to talk about because I mean, when there's nothing to complain about, there's nothing to talk about, right? I mean, when the weather is wonderful as it is now, what am I going to say? Another beautiful day, right? I mean, that's it. But no, it's going well. Family is healthy. I assume you have another 2 or 3 kids coming in soon.
I
You've
don't
just
think so.
been multiplying just so quickly. I
Yeah,
imagine there's going to be more coming soon. So
we'll see.
Daddy Rothman is Big Daddy Rothman.
Yeah, well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, everything's going good for both of us. So, because of that, we are here to talk about conversion tracking. So, there have been some updates to conversion tracking. Some very new, some
Mm-hmm.
a little
Mm-hmm.
bit a while ago, but they are a little bit different than what we've talked about in the past. They kind of make what we talked about in the past null and void, and so that's why we wanted to do an update today to the conversion tracking's options in Google Ads. We'll be focusing on lead gen campaigns today, the three major conversions, some new ways to set them up, and then some new options inside of Google Ads that have to do with automated bidding and the conversion column and all conversions and all that kind of stuff. So that's what we will be talking about today. Chris, only news for our show is that we have ramped up on YouTube. And so if you want to watch the show, we are on there as well again. And you can just search Paid Search Podcast on there. And with that said, Chris, I'll let you tell us about Optio and then we will jump into the episode.
Yeah, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Optio. I'm going to deviate a little bit, and I'm going to tell you guys some details that you wouldn't necessarily hear day to day about why I like Optio. Let me give you a little testimony here. Optio is a great tool for getting more done in Google Ads. And one of the things that I really like about it is I can click on the performance tab for each of my clients, and it gives me a different way to view the information in the account. Okay. In the Google Ads interface, you can see all the normal stuff, all the normal columns and data that you can always see. But in performance, there are additional graphs, additional tables, and just seeing things in a different light can really change your perspective in a way that you may not have ever seen it before. You can quickly see things and make decisions that might not have been triggered with the normal data that you see all the time in Google Ads. Another thing, of course, is the massive improvements tool that they have, where you just go through item by item, open improvement, apply, open improvement, apply. You go through, you decide what you want to do. Bing, bam, boom. It's done. It's fast. It's easy. You're going to like it. You can try it at optio.com/PSP. That's a special link. Be sure and use that link. It's in our description because you get an 8-week free trial. Don't try this without the 8-week free trial because it gets you through really 2 cycles of Google Ads management so that you can go through 2 months of data here to find out, how much of a difference it can make. Lots of stuff that you're going to like about it, I guarantee. Many listeners have tried it and have become regular users of Optio.
Okay, thanks, Chris. So Later in the episode, we're going to talk about a new magical form of conversion tracking. I think it's magical. That has to do with tracking lead form submissions. And then we're going to be talking a lot about primary versus secondary conversions. But just to start it off, we're going to talk about the 3 most common ways to track leads when you run a lead generation campaign: actual hard leads, phone calls, and form submissions. So we're going to start off with calls, but we're going to go a little bit deeper this week and talk about just some nuanced things that some people out there may have missed and we want you to be aware of. So we're going to start, Chris, by talking about calls from ads. So why don't you please break that down for 52 minutes? Or did we do that last week?
Yeah. We talked about this last week. It was something that we really deep dived into. So I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, what do you want me to add here, Jason? I mean,
absolutely nothing.
Okay, there we go. All right.
But I want to get your wisdom and experience here and ask you if you've run into this before. What I want to discuss is making sure that people don't forget to track conversions when they run the call extension in Google Ads. So I was working with a client just this week, and this is such a big deal, Chris.
Yeah.
They were running the call extension. They were getting calls from the call extension, but they did not have a conversion action associated with that call extension. And here's the thing. They listen to the podcast. They want to do Google Ads right. They're very focused on conversions, and they're making a lot of decisions at the campaign level in terms of allocating budget to different campaigns, at the keyword level in terms of how much to bid on their keywords, on the conversion column and the cost per conversion, and trying to hit their numbers. But big problem here, about a third of the conversions were not showing up in that column because they weren't tracking them. So we'll talk about where to look for this in a second. But have you run into that where someone's running the call extension, getting calls from the great traffic that either you get them or you've consulted with them and you've showed them how to target the right search terms and stuff, but they're not actually seeing reported conversions from the calls from the call extension because they don't have it turned on at the call extension level, the conversion turned on? Have you run into this before? It's kind of a big mistake.
Yeah, I absolutely have seen this. It is more common than you would think because there is an ability to deassociate the default conversion with a call extension. So if you create a call extension, it automatically creates a calls from ad
conversion action.
Conversion action. So you can go in and unselect that and choose something different, and there's
none.
Or none, which is, typically a bad idea. But the reason it's even possible to do that is because there are call tracking third-party systems that might want a different conversion action associated with it, or you might have different conversion actions based on a variety of different numbers that you have, so that this is a call from this is a call to the service line, this is a call to the sales line, or something like that, depending on the number. So you want to label them different. There's a lot of reasons for it, but the one thing you don't want to do, just like you said, not track them at all, because that's awful. Yeah, that's definitely a bad thing. It's just going to show up as a phone call in the phone call column, but not as a conversion.
And the odds are it's very, very likely that someone does not have the phone call column pulled up.
Oh, yeah.
On the campaign page, but also on the keyword and ad page when they're making decisions about those keywords and ads. Chris, it's not going to affect your performance unless you're doing an automated bidding strategy based on conversions. Like if you're just worried about, hey, am I getting calls? Am I showing up on good traffic? You'll keep getting calls. You'll keep showing up on good traffic if you are, even if you don't have a conversion action associated with the call extension. But where it'll run you wrong is in that conversion column. Those conversions won't show up there, those calls, and then it can possibly lead to either really bad decision-making that you do yourself, or it can lead to bad decision-making that the automated bidding strategies do, because you might have 20 real conversions, but you only have 10 reported conversions. And so the system's going to optimize based on that, and it's not going to be able to make good decisions. So if you have a call extension created, you can go to ads and extensions and then extensions. click on the or hover over the call extension phone number, you'll get a little edit graphic that pops up. You click on that, then you hit edit, and you can see their conversion action. Call extension calls is what I've got it named. If you don't see that there, you might see none. If you're making this mistake, you might see calls from smart campaign ads in there.
Yeah.
If you're not running a smart campaign, you should change that to your call extension calls or phone calls from ads. And if you don't see any option like that, like calls from ads, you can go to manage conversions, go to your conversion page, and pick and create a call extension conversion, and then go back to your call extension and then apply this conversion action to your call extension. A mistake we see a lot of people make, and it doesn't sound like much as we talk about it, but it really influences the data.
I mean, for many of my clients, a phone call from a click on an ad represents, more than half of the leads that they get. I mean, it's very common for, lead generation campaigns, maybe not so much on e-commerce, but it's very common for the call from ads to be a high number of the leads that a company gets. So yeah, it's really important.
Yeah, sometimes the most common.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
depending on the industry, if it's very call heavy. So that's one way to track leads, the calls from the ads. Let's talk about another way to track calls and track leads through calls, and that's calls from the website. And so, Chris, some people know about this, some people don't. I'm very surprised how many people still don't know about this, but with Google Ads, free inside of Google Ads, you can create a calls from website conversion, and you can put this code on the website, and then when someone clicks from Google Ads, it's not from every source, it's not from any other source except Google Ads, but when they come from Google Ads, they click on a Google ad, they go to your website from Google Ads. As the page is loading, the phone number will swap itself into a Google tracking forwarding number, and then someone will dial the number they see, and you will receive the call at the phone number you said you want to receive calls at when you set up the conversion, and which should be your business number. And then you'll be able to find out which ads and which keywords led to those calls when someone manually dialed the phone number that they saw on your website. This kind of closes the loop here, Chris. Tracking the lead forms very easy. Tracking calls from ads very easy. The one thing that was missing for the longest time, and it's so weird to think back to those days versus the way we talk about conversions now and wanting to track everything, but calls from the website, that was the missing loop, and they've closed it. So any general thoughts on that? And then I want to kind of go into some different nuances.
Yeah. Call from website, I'll tell you, to put in perspective with, the first thing we talked about, call from ads, I would say a lot less clients of mine and people that I do consulting with use this. So much less common and much less of an anchor in their conversion tracking. I would say just, I guess you get about a third of the people that call from the website versus people that call from a click to call in an ad. I would say that the numbers are significantly less that call from a website, because often, in addition to a phone number, they also have a web form, a quote form, a chat,
email
address. There's a lot of other distractions and ways that person might be more apt to do it. But when you're presented with either going to the website or calling a phone number, just like you said, for some industries, straight from the ad phone call is going to be the preferred method. So it's definitely not, call from website is definitely not something that I consider to be a foundational conversion, because sometimes I don't even have them.
Well, I would say it's not foundational as an industry right now because it hasn't been. And I would, because it just hasn't been. Like, there wasn't that option for the longest time.
Yeah.
Now there is that option. A lot of people haven't kind of come around to it. I think I would just add, you want to judge it industry by industry, because there are some industries.
Yeah. Okay.
Think of like something like an orthodontist. People don't want to fill out a form and then they're busy. They want to book an appointment for their kids to get them braces. They're not looking to fill out a form and then hear back like 2 days later. They're looking to
Right.
call in. So I think it depends on the industry. I can see a lot of B2B industries and national campaigns where people just want a quote. They're out there getting quotes. They fill out a quote form, much heavier base of conversions. But some of the medical stuff I think could lead to a lot of phone calls. And I guess my main point is it is an option, and people they are not utilizing it to the extent they should. I think a lot of people don't even realize it. It does sound magic when I talk about it. Like, how does that actually work? And some people would wonder, like, well, what does it change your number to? The crazy thing about it is the font of your phone number, the size of the text, the style of the text, it all stays the same, which is very, very impressive. A couple nuances here. Number one, it does not work on logo images or images on your website. So work with a lot of moving companies, Chris, and they have images of their trucks on the homepage, big image of the truck, and on the truck they have a phone number. And this code will not be able to influence that image. It's a different kind of technology. And so the or the real phone number will still show in the image, or if someone has a logo with the phone number in the logo, that phone number will still say in the logo. And so if you see the number in text on your website, it will change it out, but it won't on the logo images or images. You just have to know that, and you have to know, like, okay, well, if we see calls from website conversions coming in, just know that's not all the calls we'll get, because some people will look at the truck image, some people will look at the logo. Couple more nuances, Chris. You want those phone numbers to be clickable on your website. Test it on mobile in Chrome, test it on mobile in Safari. And if they're not clickable, if you can't click to call on mobile on your website, that's going to lower the amount of calls you get by potentially a lot. So look up that code or talk to your web developer. And then finally, I think, Chris, you can do this multiple times. You can set up multiple calls from website on a website. Like if there's a main phone number at the top and then a different location in the footer, I'm pretty sure you can set up a second conversion action to track that second number in the footer, because you want to try to be getting all calls.
Yeah, and you're hitting on something. I'm not going to go into it again because we talked about it. If you want more information about calls, we did talk about it last week in a deep dive about calls and some of the issues that I have with call tracking, and the difference between third-party paid solutions and the free Google Ads solution. So I won't go into that again, but Jason's hitting on it again. I mean, there are some big differences, and what's right for you might really be dependent upon the limitations of the Google Ads system and what's provided for free versus what you get when you pay a third party to provide that call tracking for you.
Yeah, and the main thing to know about this is, like, you can track calls from ads, you can track lead forms, and you can track calls on your website manually dialed on desktop and on mobile. You can do it through Google Ads for free, but there are some limitations on what you get for that. But you do get all the calls. You see all the calls in the duration. And then there are third-party call tracking systems where you have to pay, but they allow you to get more data as well. And you can track those calls. That's the main message. So, Chris, let's say you are tracking calls from ads. Let's say you are tracking calls from website using Google Ads conversion code. There is a report inside of Google Ads that I wanted to share with everyone that a lot of people don't know about, that will show you all the calls you're getting. So if you're wondering, hey, am I getting these calls? Are we answering these calls? How long are they lasting? If you go to Google Ads and you go to the top and you go to reports and you go to predefined reports and extensions and then call details, not call extensions, but call details, you will see a report that shows you the calls that you're getting from the ads, whether it's a call-only ad or a call extension call, and you will see the calls you're getting from the website if you have the Google calls from website conversion tracking running, and you get the phone number, you get the duration, you get the time the call came in, and you get if the call was answered or missed. And so what I've been seeing with some clients, Chris, is they're running it many different times of the week, but they're missing calls at the times you would expect they would miss calls at, sometimes during lunch, sometimes during the overnight hours. And so you can use that information to then play around with your call extension scheduling, and then also play around with your scheduling if you rely heavily on calls. So you just get a lot of insights about the calls you're getting. And I think the biggest thing I'm looking for there is duration. If you see a lot of 15-second calls, I mean, what's that doing for you? But if you see a lot of 5-minute, 10-minute calls coming in, you've got a good thing going with those calls.
Yeah. This is a great point, because this report, you might see a bunch of zeros, you might see a bunch of nothing if, as we mentioned in point number 1 and 2, you're not doing any call tracking. If you do not have conversion tracking, if you don't have a call extension added, if you don't have calls from websites set up, you're going to see a bunch of zeros, even though maybe you do have a call extension added, but you're not tracking it as conversion. You know, Google's not, I don't think we've made this clear, but when you don't have it set up as a conversion, Google does not change the number out, because they have no reason to change the number out. The only reason that they would change the number on a call extension or a call from website is when they need conversion information about that.
Yeah.
So that is how they understand how long the call was and things like that, because it's going through their system first. Their system is the proxy by which it forwards to your phone number. So really important to that, but it's a great report. Glad you mentioned
and just imagine what you can do with it. Like, imagine there's 2 pest control companies out there, like in Dallas, and they're both running like $2,000 a month. And one of them goes, yeah, I'm going to track calls from ads. And even they track calls from website, and they leave their duration at the standard 60 seconds or something like that. And they never, or maybe they went in and a manager had made a bad decision, put it at like 20 seconds or something, and they never think about it again. They, or the automated bidding strategy they're running, might see a ton of conversions from calls from ads and calls from website. A lot of those calls might be 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 50 seconds. Imagine that. Yeah. Competitor calls that are coming in from broad keywords or weird stuff like pest control phrase match, but then people are searching for like Home Depot or products.
products.
And, products, and they click the call extension accidentally or something, and whatever. So imagine that person, and all they do is they look at their conversions, and then imagine it's doing great, lots of conversions, or a bad manager that's just looking at conversions. And then imagine the other advertiser who goes deeper and looks at that call details report and looks at their number one, when they miss calls, and go, oh yeah, we do miss calls 12-1 because we're out for lunch. And I've just found over the years that the only way I can keep employees is if I let them eat during the middle of the day. And so he lets them go out to eat, and they have a burger, but those calls are coming in and they're missing those calls. So he, number one, stops advertising from 12-1, or turns off his call extension from 12-1. And then he looks at the duration and he goes, well, a lot of these are coming in under 5 minutes, a lot of them, but some of them are coming in over 5 minutes. And I know that if someone's on the call with my employees for 5 minutes, we've got that job. And say they put their threshold at 5 minutes, then they start bidding for those conversions that are actually 5 minutes. Just imagine how much better they're going to do with Google Ads versus other company. Even if the surface data kind of looks the same, conversions, good search terms, whatever. So you can really, really get a lot of information there. Chris, we have some shocking things to share, some amazing things to share about magical conversions and about primary and secondary conversions. We're going to do them after the break.
Okay.
Because I need a minute to dance with you.
Okay.
And today, even though the music might not be slow, you and me, we're going to do a little slow dance together.
Oh. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I want to remind you, if you haven't done it, please check out Optio. It's important because better campaigns are just around the corner. You can get more out of your day. You can get more out of some of the basic stuff that you just don't think about. I mean, do you think about, as I mentioned last week, the Ngram? Do you know what that is? It sounds complicated, but in reality, it's just specific phrases inside of the search terms that are common, where you might not realize that your how-to phrases are absolute wastes on your budget. And Optio can go in there and analyze this instantly and find those for you, and you realize, oh my gosh, my cost per conversion is $1,000 on the how-to stuff. If I just block this, I don't have to pause 15 keywords. I can just block that. That's the kind of cool stuff, and it's just push of a button management. Really great. Check them out at optio.com/PSP.
Okay, Chris. So let's get into some real magic here. We're going to be talking about the conversion action for. Well, I'll tell people where we're at first. If you go to conversions and then new conversion action and then website. And so for lead generation campaigns, what we're trying to do is we're trying to figure out basically when someone filled out a lead form. So you click on website conversions, and then once you do that, you're taken to a page, and this is what's relatively new here. The first thing they do is they ask you to put in your website domain.
Yep.
And for people that haven't created a conversion in a long time, they haven't seen this before.
Yeah, this is new. It used to, it just would prompt you to choose, what you're looking for, and then it would give you code, and then you have to go out there and apply code. You got to email a developer that you have or do it yourself, and then you did it wrong, and you got to go back and do it again, and you're confused. You got to look up directions. The fact that it just says put your website in, and then move on to the next step from there. Now, this is completely different.
We're not saying you can still do it the old school manual way.
Yes.
And you might still have to. But if you have, my understanding is if you have Google Analytics on your website, and I don't think it has to be linked to Google Ads. I think it helps if it is. You can have more options, but I don't think it has to be linked in order to pull this off. But you have Google Analytics on your website. You come in here to create a website conversion, track when a lead form is filled out, put in your website, and then you hit scan. And when you hit scan, they're going to check for two things. Number one, they're going to check if your Google Analytics account is linked to Google Ads. And if it is, well, and then the second thing they're going to scan for is if you have a Google Analytics on your website.
Right.
So those are the two things they check for. If it is, if you already have Google Analytics, if you already have Google Analytics linked, well, if you don't have Google Analytics on your site, I think you're just going to have to create conversion actions manually using code, which is the traditional way, and there's an option there for that. But if you have Google Analytics on your site and you have that linked to Google Ads, and the way you would do that is tools and settings, and then setup, and then linked accounts, and then you could link analytics. They will look at the events that you have set up inside of your Google Analytics account, and if you want to, you can just click on import from analytics, and all of a sudden they will import those events that you have set up as goals inside of Google Analytics into Google Ads, and those will track as conversions. Number one, let's stop there, Chris. There's a lot of things you can do in Google Analytics with goal tracking. Isn't that amazing to just click one button and say import and get to choose which ones you import?
Yeah. Jason, there probably are some good podcasts out there about Google Analytics. It's deep. I mean, it's just as deep as Google Ads. So there's probably a ton that could be said here about what can be, done in Google Analytics and then imported into Google Ads. But the simplicity for those of us that aren't analytics experts and how this now works, that it can be a literally never leave that screen type of solution where you can just click, done. That has never existed. So this is an entirely new system because, Jason, I know you as well as I dreaded that very last step when you're doing a new account setup, right? You go through, you build all your keywords, you write your ads, everything's perfect, and then, okay, here we go. Create the conversion, and then craft an email. And
number one, check what kind of form they have.
Yeah, you got to go in and say, what are all your forms? Do you have thank you pages for this? And do we need to? There's so many steps, and then you have to send them the email. Then they're always going to send another email back about, our developer doesn't know what you mean. Can we get on a call and talk about this? I mean, there's always confusion. So simplifying this is such an important thing for the account owner because you'll get better data. And it's important for Google because it will help people to maintain their account and continue to be prosperous with their account and profitable with their account because they're making better decisions. So this is long overdue. I hope it continues to get
Long
more.
overdue.
I think it's too complicated. I think,
Well, did you know how to make this code and make all this work?
well, no, but
It's
not my job.
long overdue.
It is, finally.
You don't think maybe this is a little bit hard to make?
No.
Really? Who knows?
They have a cloud, Jason. And I thought clouds were made of H2O and air.
I thought clouds were made of cookies, and then cookies all of a sudden, I guess, don't matter that much. And so everyone's like, oh, cookies are gone. The internet is private and all that. But it's like, if all these mega tech companies are getting rid of cookies, but they're still happy with it,
yeah.
What do they have that's better than cookies? We don't know, but it works. And it works for Google Ads with this.
They don't have cookie jars anymore. They didn't get rid of cookies. They got rid of cookie jars. And now the cookie jars are hidden somewhere where you can't see them. They're not labeled.
They got rid of cookies, but they still have all the ingredients.
Yes. We're still making cookies. Now you just can't eat them.
Yeah. But Chris, so the first thing you can do is you can just, whatever goals you have inside of Google Analytics that fit to tracking website events, you can just say import from analytics, boom, and you're done. Now, the other thing you can do if you don't have goals set up in Google Analytics, and this is so amazing, Chris. This is the part that gets me, because one of the issues with analytics and then sending over the codes from Google Ads was the two versions of global tags. And if you already have the global tag from analytics, just one that add this little snippet to it. And if you don't, then you need a full global tag, whatever. What they've done is they said, no, you already have a global tag from analytics, and so we can just do all this for you behind the scenes. And so this is for, hey, guess what? It's not for clicks on a button. It's for page loads. So we'll talk about that in a second. But if you have a page load, which means if someone fills out the form on your website when you get a lead, and you want to be able to track when you get that conversion, and they fill out the form and they go to a thank you page. Let's say it's /thanks is the URL, yourwebsite.com/thanks as a URL. All you have to do is go to add page load. And this is an option when they see in analytics on your website. Go to add page load, and then you can choose what you want to call that conversion, whether it's a contact or submit lead form or sign up. I'm going to say submit lead form in this case. Then you have your option to say URL is, URL contains, URL starts with. I think you could do like a URL is. I think you could do a URL contains and just say, I think, don't quote me on this, but just say the word thanks or //thanks. And then anytime someone sees that thank you page /thanks, when they have come from a Google Ads click, you get a conversion, and you don't have to send code or anything. And you have a website page load thank you page conversion set up, all just by putting in the URL. But you have to remember, if you have like a blog post that says when to say thank you or when to say thanks, and then you're only looking for URL contains thanks, then you're going to have multiple conversions that aren't just that thank you page. So you got to be careful with that. Chris, I know you were also concerned about, well, what if they don't have analytics set up correctly, or what happens if there's two analytics on there? You still have to get some code right. But how magical is just put in the thank you page URL essentially right from the Google Ads conversion screen inside of Google Ads, as long as Google Analytics is on the site? How amazing is that?
Yeah, I already talked about the pain and the suffering that I still trying to heal from all the years of having to send these long emails with
no, they're not long emails. They're 2 sentences of instructions. Take this code below and put it on this URL in the head section. Yeah. And here's a code. That's all you send. And then the web developer goes, yeah, can you have them send instructions? We're not sure how to do this.
Yeah.
How bad are you guys at your job?
A week long to
we're gonna rope someone in, and we're gonna bring in the team on this one, and there's 5 other emails. Are you guys serious?
You built this whole website. How is this hard? It's like, Well, one of the things that, in case you haven't heard, and we've said this in the podcast many times, but I just want to say it because I think it's something that Jason has said, I have said many times, and we firmly believe this. If you have forms on your website the best way to, I don't care if you're tracking conversions or not tracking conversions, you should have thank you pages for those forms, period. Especially if you're using Google Ads and you want to do conversion tracking, this is a great reason to have thank you pages because it's a copy paste the URL in there and then you're done kind of situation. But beyond that, there's all kinds of other advantages we won't go into, but it is absolutely an advantage now because
it's not an advantage. It's necessary.
Necessary.
It's necessary.
Okay.
Because like you're saying, Chris, it was easier. Well, it wasn't easier. It actually worked before.
It worked. It guaranteed to work. Now, and you say, well, of course I have thank you pages, but let me explain. I'm not talking about the little pop-up that says, thanks for sending your message, that scrolls up on the page or pops up.
Or a little additional
like
text that shows up below the form.
Additional text that pops at the bottom. Form. We're talking about a different URL that it goes to after the form has been completed. That is the gold standard for a form.
It's the only standard in my book going forward. Yeah. Chris, I've been doing this since 2014. I was lucky enough to find you in 2016, but actually then I have to give myself credit. I reached out to you. I looked up to you. We had so much in common, and with this friendship and partnership on this podcast I'm about to tear you apart in a minute.
Oh, okay.
I'm building you up first. This partnership has blossomed, and since I've been doing this in 2014, maybe sent out hundreds or maybe 150, maybe 75, something like that, because most of them are thank you page lead, the page loads. But I've sent out well over 100 clicks on a button times, track clicks on a button, well over 100, maybe 150. Not once in 2014 has that ever ended up working. They never get I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Not once has it worked.
Yeah.
So now people have done it before me, and then I get on their into their Google Ads, and we keep tracking it that way. But of course, then it breaks and all that
goes wrong. And the person who's there at the company now doesn't know how the person did it before, and they can't fix it. And yeah.
So there's also a lot less confidence in that, because you can look at analytics and see how many page loads am I getting on this page that have come from a source of Google Ads. Can't really track how many buttons you're getting that are actually being tracked.
We can go on for a long time about that, but one other thing. So you say, Chris, you haven't convinced me yet. One other thing you can do is you can go to the web page details of the conversion and see where the code is triggering. So if you have different forms, you can see and confirm all those different thank you page forms that are triggering. So you can make sure you're not having false positives. Try that with a button click. Try that with a little pop-up thing.
With a button click, a lot of times you get a misfire on there, and you start tracking like way too many conversions, like when people see it or something. But Chris, the point is with page loads now, they always were the ones that worked in the past when you're tracking lead forms. Now, to me, they're the only thing you can do. It's the only thing you should do, the only thing you can do, because now this magic that is now inside of the Google Ads account, this magic, it only works with page loads. And Chris, a lot of people, when I talk to them in consulting or clients, people listen to the show. Just this week, I was talking to someone who called in, just cold, and he goes, "Your voice sounds familiar." And he goes, "Oh, you're the better half of the Paid Search podcast."
Come
so, Chris, all the time, I'm getting all these comments like, "Jason, your podcast, the Paid Search podcast, is awesome. Chris is getting old. When are you going to age him out? When is he going to stop showing up so often? When are you going to get a new host?" And I get that a lot, Chris. But in defense of you, what I tell them is, this magic that we have on this podcast, it only works with me and you. It's only both of us.
Thank you.
It's both of us together. That's where the magic actually happens and the magic works. Same thing with page loads. This new magical conversion tracking inside of Google Ads, it's super easy and efficient. It only works with page loads. So, Chris, now that they're doing this and they can just use whatever code they have in Google Analytics to then track page loads and then bring that back to Google Ads, I'm making a prediction, even though it's not December 31st, and we're predicting things for the upcoming year. Which I was dead right about locations and that getting way, way more advanced. Okay, a couple years ago, I said location extensions and maps. That's going to become a bigger deal. It was for a while.
Okay, and we'll have to come back to that. Okay.
My prediction here is that they are going to track calls from the website simply through Google Analytics, and you're going to be able to go into make calls from website in Google Ads conversions, create a calls from the website conversion. And just like in the page load or the website conversions, they take you to a scan website. They're going to have a scan website there. This is my prediction. And they're going to say, oh, yeah, great. You do have Google Analytics on the website. Tell us the phone number, the digits you want us to hunt for when someone comes from a Google Ads click, the phone number that you want to track and insert a forwarding number into, and then tell us the number you want to receive calls at, just like you do when you set up a code now. And yeah, we'll do that because we have power over that through Google Analytics. They have to do that, Chris. And the beautiful thing about that, if they do that, which I think is totally doable because they can do it with the tracking which pages are viewed and stuff. If they do that, then you will be able to close the loop on lead generation campaigns and track calls from ads, track lead form submissions, and track calls from website, all by just having Google Analytics on the website, and you can track all 3 conversions inside of just Google Ads. How amazing would that be?
Yeah, I mean obviously Google Analytics is very important, and no one's going to care about Google Analytics until it becomes directly tied to Google Ads, so that you really need one to do the other. That's going to drive both the value of both tools up because they're more powerful together. So yeah, I think you're right. You know, with the change to GA4, I think is what it's called. Google Analytics 4.
We'll talk about that in a second.
I mean, that's it seems like where things would be going.
Yeah, and Chris, now that I'm thinking about it, essentially they're hopefully in the process of putting more of the Google Tag Manager tools inside of Google Analytics and the same functionality. And then you can get all that in Google Analytics, plus a whole lot more. That would be hopefully that's where they're going. But yeah, this is a huge change, and it's going to allow for a lot more conversion tracking. That said, I just want to throw this out about Google Analytics. We'll have a link to a Google Marketing Platform blog from Google. The title of the article is Prepare for the Future with Google Analytics 4. And we'll have a link to this in the description. And they are sunsetting Universal Analytics starting July 1, or I'm not sure. It's either
next year.
Yeah, next year. Some point next year, you can read this article. They're going to sunset Universal Analytics, and that Google Analytics 4 is going to be the only option. I've been hesitant to get into Universal Analytics, Chris, because I had a deep passion and love for Universal Analytics.
Hesitant. Yeah, you've been hesitant about Google Analytics 4.
Yeah, I've been hesitant about GA4 because I've had a love for, even though Universal Analytics sounds like it would be the new thing, and 4 sounds like
that sounds
thing.
Newer. Yeah. Universal sounds better. It sounds like a downgrade, but yeah.
And Universal sounds like, okay, this is it forever. This is it, the best, and we just keep making it better.
Here comes 4.
Universal Analytics is going out. 4 is coming in, and I've been hesitant to get away from Universal Analytics because I've loved it so much. It's so simple. But when they use the word sunset,
they're serious. Yeah. Sunset means your head's on a chopping block. Yeah, it's going to be gone. I feel like they really missed the naming opportunity there. It could have been Google Analytics Galactic.
Forever.
Universal to Galactic.
How about instead of 4, forever?
Forever.
Forever. EVA.
Forever. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
If I were, I would just be slapped. I would just be beat up by the engineers when I go to my car in the parking lot afterward. And then I would just be slapped in the middle of meetings. They would just,
Guys, I got it.
And then that 1 hour a day where you get to work on ideas and anything you want, they just would tie me up and lock me in a closet because they would say, you can't do this because you're going to come up with ideas that make our lives too hard.
That is.
But man, could I share some good ideas.
You're the idea wizard. What we got next?
Chris, let's finish up here with primary versus secondary conversions, and let's do a mea culpa here, and let's talk about how we forever had been talking about the importance of including the conversion column, yes or no, including conversions, yes or no. That's gone.
We've said that a lot.
We said that a lot. We said how useful it was, and now you go in there.
And now it's not there.
Yeah,
now it's not there. So it's really confusing. So yeah, there was a wonderful, really simple. Either you hit the checkbox and it's a tracked as conversion, or you unchecked the checkbox and it was a quote unquote all conversion. So an all conversion is just kind of the default. It's not measured as a true conversion. It's just a metric that's kind of floating out there in space. And before, a conversion was a true metric that counted as a purchase, a sale, a lead or something like that, something of value. So it's a little confusing. I do applaud that we have now replaced those with primary and
Jason
secondary.
Rothman, Chris Schaefer, host. Wow, you're not taking these jokes good today, Chris. You're tense.
They're very
looking like you want to beat me up.
Well, you said that people said I'm too old.
You're looking like, well, your mustache isn't too old because I see some coloring in that, but not in your beard.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't forget to color the beard too, Chris.
I don't know why I do not color my facial hair.
Well, then why do you have a brown mustache and a gray beard?
I don't know. I don't understand how that works. Jason, I'm very new to beards.
And what's with the beard in general? Why are you doing this all of a sudden? You used to be a clean-shaven guy.
I told you, the number one person in the world that it matters what they say told me that she liked it. So that's why. You think I have an
weird.
opinion?
She told me she hated it, and she's just not making you feel bad. Yeah, she told me.
Wow, I didn't.
Hold on, let me check my DMs.
Oh,
she told me.
There it is. Yeah, there it is. I see you're showing to me. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I didn't. She didn't tell me.
That. Yeah. Give me a smile. Come on, Chris. You know we just joke around.
you're never gonna hurt my feelings. So it's
got to have feelings to hurt.
You got to be. I have to have like some type of.
When's the last time you cried? You don't have to tell us the situation with the date.
My wife brings up the last time I cried.
I don't even want to know the situation, but
because
how
it was
long ago
so traumatic for her to see me cry. She's like, "Oh my gosh!"
I don't want to know.
It was something really traumatic. Yeah.
How long ago was it?
It was years ago. But my wife saw it and she's never forgotten it because it's never happened and she couldn't believe it.
Ooh,
and
that's
I
very
quickly snapped out of
think
it.
About, yeah.
Quickly snapped out of it.
So Chris, include in conversion column or include in conversions, which means it is included in the conversion column. It used to be a yes or no option. It used to have that language. That's been replaced with primary versus secondary.
Yeah.
Conversions. We'll have a link in our description. It's a Google support doc about primary and secondary conversion actions. But Chris, if we go to our notes here, I just have a screenshot here. When you're creating a conversion, near the top of the conversion action, I'll just pull one up here, see what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Near the top, you can edit your settings, and then right under conversion name, you have goal and action optimization, and you can say primary action used for bidding optimization. And if you do that, you'll see a green box that says this action will be optimized for and reported in the conversions column by default anytime this conversion goal is used in your campaigns. If you click on secondary, which would be equivalent to the old no, don't include in conversions. If you click on secondary, it says this action is marked secondary, will not be used for optimizations by default, and will be reported in the all conversions column. And it's not just the all conversions column. There's a lot of conversion data where you talk about cost per conversion and returns and all that. There's on many different screens. There's a lot of columns that either include, like if they're a ratio or that they include two numbers like cost versus conversions or all that kind of stuff. Sometimes you'll see conversions, sometimes you'll see all conversions. That's what this relates to.
Yeah.
And one thing to note is that the automated bidding strategies take into account the conversions and not all conversions. You agree with that, Chris?
Yeah. I think
gotcha.
I think the primary and secondary, as I said, is much more clear. One thing I want to add, I'm not sure if you've hit everything that you want to talk about, but I have to add here.
Go ahead.
That if you're not using automated bids, if you're not using max conversions, target CPA, things like that, automated bidding, which is 99% of the bidding options that are available. There's only one thing that's not, and that's manual bidding. And that's what Jason and I prefer for most of our accounts. So if you're not using automated bids, that is what it's specifically referring to when it talks about it's used for bidding optimization.
Yeah.
So don't think that somehow if you don't be too hung up on whether you decide this should be primary, this should be primary, what you're choosing, because in reality, if you're not using automated bidding, as they call nowadays smart bidding, if you're not using smart bidding that accounts for conversions, which would be, for example, which would not be max clicks. That is smart bidding, but it's not using conversions as any kind of target or goal. So it's important to note that is what they're referring to when it says used for bidding optimization. And the second thing that's important to note here is when you choose a primary action, the other thing that is linked to is your optimization score. Your recommendations tab gives you an overall optimization score. And if you choose a goal that says most conversion, you want to get conversions on this. That's what your goal is for this. You want to choose conversions. And then you were to turn off all conversions and you set all conversions as secondary, you're actually going to get a poor
optimization score.
Yeah, optimization score, because you're not hitting one of the goals on your campaign.
Wow.
So it's all tied in, and in reality, it doesn't make any successes as to whether your campaign can be successful or not successful. A lot of times it just has to do with how the data is interpreted and how it's displayed.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot to remember here. You got to know that if you're going to be doing automated bid strategies that are based on conversion data, primary conversions are going to be included in that, and the system will take them to account. Secondary conversions or not. I don't know for sure about enhanced CPC on manual, but I would assume it does take into account.
Yeah, I'm sure a little bit.
The conversions that are in primary, because it's based on conversions. Second thing is the conversion column. Stuff that's in primary will show up or conversions that are marked primary will show up in the conversion column. Conversion actions that are marked secondary will not, but they will not show up in conversion column, but they will show up in all conversion column. And then, like you're saying, Chris, the optimization scores are affected as well. One final thing about this, at the campaign level, when you're at the campaign settings, you can go to your goals, and by default, it will use the account goal settings, which I believe are your primary conversion actions. But if you want to only use select or specific primary conversion actions, you can hit use campaign specific goal settings and override the account default there. So a lot going on.
There it is. It's a whole.
And I'm glad we did a refresher today, Chris, on conversions. It definitely, all these are improvements. I love all these changes. It's
an improvement because it gives us a little more clarity on exactly what's happening and what's this, how's this being tracked, how is this being changed by this, and you have a little more control than we used to, simply because we have clarity. That's usually, when it comes to Google Ads, you don't usually have more control. They don't usually give you more options or more things. They just help you to clarify what your options that you do have. That's the case of how things work. So, Jason, everyone wants to know, how can they get a piece of you nowadays?
Yeah, so I work for a lot of Google Ads advertisers. I do consulting and I do management. And a lot of my clients are people who have already been running Google Ads in the past. A lot of them are business owners and employees of businesses who have hired agencies in the past, and they've had poor experiences. And if you can remember being on the phone with an agency and clenching that phone until you almost break it, and then getting mad because you almost broke your new iPhone, and feeling so hot and red in the face because you can't get straight answers. You know you're being lied to, but you can't prove it because they know this kind of stuff better than you. I want you to pick up that phone that you were clenching, and I want you to call 405-740-0867 or go to rothmanppc.com, and I'm going to ask you a question. How can I help you? And then I'm going to help you. So thank you for that.
That is fire there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, mine's much shorter. ChrisSchaefer.com. Sign up for a consulting session. I will blow your mind in 1 hour. A gentleman took me up on that a couple weeks ago. Didn't think it would happen. I blew his mind. I can do the same for you. We'll catch you next week.